I've learned some things about worship. As you began to worship the Lord, and many times as we sing the songs, we lift up our hands. And what I've learned is that that's symbolic of a fact that, Lord, we have nothing to offer that will give him what he's worth. And so we lift up empty hands, because in the presence of a holy God, you can only hope to receive mercy, because there is no holiness inside of these broken vessels, inside of these jars of clay. But because of his grace, Lord, because of your grace, we can boldly approach the throne to obtain mercy. And I was so present to the fact of my utter worthlessness. In January of 1994, I was in Jerusalem. I had been in the Navy for about 1.5 years now, and I was in Jerusalem. I was there at the Wailing Wall. And guys, listen, I know you look at this face and look like I can't hurt a fly. But I was living my life for myself. And I was doing everything that I was big and bad enough to do. And I was there at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, a stone cold sinner. Had no idea what I was doing in the presence of a holy God. And I was terrified. It was just a trip. It was just a trip. I'd finally gotten off my ship. We were standing 12-hour watches, 12 on, 12 off, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. There was just no time where we ever, Lord, going to get off of this ship. Finally, I got a chance to get off the ship, and I just want to take a trip. And I was raised in church, so I'd heard something about Jerusalem and Bethlehem, and I knew that this dude that talked about named Jesus, he used to live there and stuff. I wasn't really sure what I believed about him and stuff, but I had heard some stuff about Bethlehem, and so I was at this place that they call the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall. And I'm a city boy. I was kind of. It doesn't take much to spark my curiosity. And I saw the bricks on the wall, and one of the things that I looked at, I said, how do you get grass to grow between bricks? How does that even happen? Has anybody been to the Western Wall here in Jerusalem? You gotta go, yeah. And you saw that grass growing, and I started walking up to the grass, man, and I touched the wall. I was getting ready to pull out some grass to see, because, there was some grass that I did enjoy back in the day. I'm just saying. And I just want to make sure that wasn't it, because it kind of looked. Man, I touched the wall. I touched the wall, guys, and I can only tell you the story as it happened. Listen, I touched the wall, and I was in the presence of Jesus. And he was all around me. He was breathing on the back of my neck, and he was in my shirt and down my shoes, and he was everywhere, and everybody disappeared. The wall disappeared, and there was light, and I couldn't understand what was happening, and he didn't have to say a word. I knew who he was. I knew who he was, and he was standing behind me, and I was scared to death to turn around, because my sins overwhelmed me all in one moment. My sins overwhelmed me. And I was scared to death to turn around, because I was afraid I was going to look into the face of Jesus. And there was one sin that stood out to me the most, that was ripping my heart out. There was one sin that was ripping my heart out at that moment. And it was that day when, about 4 months prior, when I had been living my life for myself, and I had gotten involved with a young woman who had 2 kids by 2 different dads, and I was pretty much just taking advantage of her. Because when you're in the Navy and you're living on a ship, it's kind of big balling and shot calling when you got a house up in the hood. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I'm just telling you like it was. I ain't proud of how it was. I'm just telling you like it was. And I was using her, and I had no plans for marriage, and she had gotten pregnant. And I thought that it was a good idea to drop her off at the abortion clinic. And I'll never forget the day of dropping her off at the abortion clinic. It was a dark brown brick building with tinted windows. And I dropped her off, and I was sitting in the car just hoping for relief from this situation that was a tragedy in my mind. It was a tragedy. And I'll never forget, there was this lady standing outside, holding up a picket sign, right? White lady, had to be 70 years old. Long locks of silver gray hair, pale white skin. I still remember the blue veins running down her arm as she held up that sign. And it felt like she kept staring at me. Now, I'm from Detroit. Y'all people in the South, y'all do this stuff. This wasn't in the South, but people in the South do this. Y'all stare at people. It's really weird. And y'all don't mind staring at people, and you don't speak either. I mean, and you know, I've seen people lose their lives in Detroit for staring at somebody too long. And here's this lady in here staring at me, holding up this sign, and I'm looking at her like, girl, don't you know who I am? I'm from Detroit, girl. I will take you out. And my eyes gazed upon that sign, and that sign said, everyone who chooses abortion had a mother who chose life. And the only thing that was important to me that day was the relief that I thought I needed from a problem. I didn't care about life. I mean, from what I heard, it was just a bundle of cells. It was a problem that needed to be taken care of. And it was being taken care of. And like 15 minutes later, she came out of there and she sat in the car, and I said, it's done? She was like, yeah, it's done. I was like, you took care of it? She's like, yeah, it's done. And the sense of relief that I felt was almost as huge as the writing on the wall that she read shortly, because although it was done, we were done. I was done with her. And that happens all too many times. We as men get caught up in our own selfishness, and the life of an innocent person is snuffed out for the sake of our own convenience. Too many times our young men are caught in these same situations, not because we wanted to grow up and be a guy who has aborted children. That is not what we aim to do. No young brother at the age of 10 years old, when you ask him what he wants to be when he grow up, no brother said, I want to be a deadbeat dad. Oh yeah. I want to have 4 baby mamas by the time I'm 19 and baby mama drama from here to the Bahamas. Nobody ever said that. But we get caught up in the trap. We get caught up in the worldly trumpet that says your manhood, your masculinity as identified at the end of your penis. We get caught up in it. And our young ladies get caught up in the smooth talking, easy walking thing that we learn how to do in order to get what we want. And they don't mean to do that or to be that. They just get caught up in the fray, and we get caught up in the fray. And they lose hope when they get to the point where they got 4 baby mamas and baby drama from here to the Bahamas. And the sheriff is looking after them or looking for them, and they're behind in child support. And guess what? If you don't pay child support, you know what they do? They take you to jail. That's how you solve a problem. Yes. That's getting it. Take a man who has lost hope and really is struggling trying to get through these problems that he's created. Take him and throw him in jail. But for just utter selfishness reasons, we get caught up in these games, and it wasn't a game for me. When I was standing there at the wall, it got real serious, and that sin was weighing on me, and he was breathing down my back, and he said, I've called you into ministry for such a time as this. And I said, Lord, I don't know what ministry is, but if it needs somebody like me, it must really be in trouble. And I couldn't get over the weight of my sins, and I had no idea that this Savior was willing to wash away my sins and take away this life that I had made a mess out of, and that he was willing to turn it into something great. And here's the thing that really got me about this particular sin of the abortion when I was 20. This particular sin. See, you understand that if you haven't lived in Detroit or an urban city like that, you don't understand how death looks you in the face so many times. And some people say, you know, when death looks you in the face, the least you can do is smile back. I wasn't smiling about this one. Because when I was standing there, that sin was first and foremost in my life, and it was crushing me. It was crushing me. And then here comes the guilt trip. See, here comes the guilt trip. Right in this one moment, I thought, you know, how many times has my life been spared in Detroit? And here I am thinking about an innocent life that was taken. I think about the day when I got my first job at Burger King, man. I was like 17 years old, man, and I wanted a pair of Jordans. I don't know, y'all had your own goals and stuff, but I just wanted a pair of Jordans. I mean, I'm just saying. And we was kind of poor, so it really wasn't, you know, it wasn't like it was coming for Christmas, you know what I'm saying? So I knew that in order to get something for myself, I had to work, and I began to work, and I got this job at Burger King, and man, I was up in there, man. The first day of work, I was jamming, and man, I was throwing burgers down the grill, and it's pow, and the fries was in the thing, and it was popping, I was mopping the floor, and I was throwing burgers down the grill, and man, y'all don't even understand, this was like 1990, that hit song that day was like My Prerogative, and I was back there, y'all too safe. Everybody's talking all this stuff about me. Why won't they just let me live? I was feeling it. And all of a sudden I heard this voice, right? Henry! What? And I didn't hear nothing else, so I went back to, I don't need permission, made my own decision. Oh, Henry! What? And I stepped outside a little bit, and my manager up there named Sheila, she was waving me to the front, right? And I said, what in the world does she need? And why is she crying? And she must have been eating them, because she liked to eat onions. She would eat onions like an apple. She must have been, so she eating them onions. I done told her to stop eating them onions. So I walk up there, and she crying. And I said, yes, ma'am, can I help you? And she said, Henry, we're being robbed. And I turned to the side, and there was like a .357 revolver pointed right at my head. Now, I've always been a little guy, right? He's always been a little guy. So you could bark at me loud, and I would kind of scuffle, and it wouldn't take much for you to get me to do it. I'd give up my lunch money. I didn't really have none, so it wasn't really no big thing. It wouldn't take much. I get chased home and beat up all the time, and I just got tired of it after a while. And the girls are tough in Detroit. You're gonna get what you got coming. And so I was used to being bullied and stuff, so he didn't really need a gun, because he could have just said, hey, get down on the floor. But he pointed his gun to my head as if I needed any more incentive other than the fact that there was another man standing next to me telling me to do something, because, he was bigger than me, and it wasn't hard to be bigger than me. And so, but see, here's what he didn't know. See, he got that gun pointed right to my head, Gary. And see, what he didn't know in these last year of being in Detroit, I had started going through some training. Because, When you get your lunch money taken one too many times, you get tired of that mess. And when you take too many punches to the eye, you get tired of that mess. After a while, you're gonna start to learn something. I started learning some stuff, man. I started learning jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts and boxing, and there was this one technique I learned: how to disarm a gunman, especially if they got the gun that close to your head. Yeah, man. Oh, I wasn't no joke. You already know. You must have been on my website. You know I ain't no joke. Don't let this face fool you. Beneath this shirt is twisted steel and sex appeal, my man. I can get down. You don't you don't survive Detroit without being, knowing something. And so I was right there, man, and all of my training had come together in one moment. And man, I was thinking, I was like, he got it right there. Okay, left hand, right hand, breathe out, respond. Left hand, right hand, breathe out, respond. Well, I'm about to get down. I'm about to be the hero. There's only one gunman. I'm about to be the hero. Left hand, right hand, breathe out, respond. Here we go. Deep breath. Bam! I fell on the ground and passed out like a little girl. Sure did. Sure did. Y'all don't be listening to them books. Don't be listening to that video. Somebody pull out a gun, you tell them the only thing you respond to them with is sir. And so there's another opportunity where life was spared. And I was thinking about that moment. It's amazing how many thoughts can go through your mind in just a flash. And so here I am at the wall, and I'm thinking about the abortion, and I'm thinking about the 357, and I'm thinking about me quivering on the floor of my own urine. I'm just thinking about all that, and don't be why are you laughing? Ain't funny. Yeah, so I'm thinking about all of these things in that one moment, and I go back again to another time in my life shortly before that, when my mother was facing serious crisis. Serious crisis. See, I'd have to come back and tell you my mom's story. I'd have to come back, and that's a whole nother story. But suffice it to say that by the time my mother was 17 years old, she had 2 little girls. Her husband had left her. Her parents had betrayed her and told her it was all your fault. You done messed everything up. This house is in ruins because of you, so you need to get out of here. We're going to banish you to Detroit, because, in Detroit, they got those bus systems, and you can just get, you can get a job and start going to school, and you can handle your business. Yeah. And my mama screaming, no, please, mama, please, not Detroit. Mama, see, she was raised in a little country about 30 miles southwest of Detroit. She didn't know nothing about no big city. But here it is, she's got all this weight upon her, and it's all her fault. Of course, the blame game is an amazing thing. The blame game. How in the world are you 14 years old, and this dude is 19 years old, and he just shows up, and he's from Grand Rapids, Michigan, but he just shows up at this dying church that my mom's parents are trying to build and trying to revive, and he can play let me tell you something, he can make that organ talk and walk if he want to. And all of a sudden he comes in and he starts playing, and man, the church starts growing. Because, man, music will do that thing to you, man. It's got something in it, man. You know what I'm saying? It just attracts people. It's a gift from God. But this guy was using the gift for another reason, because while the people were lifting up their hands in praise, he was lifting his hands in places that he shouldn't have on this 14-year-old girl. And how is it that at 14 you get to be impregnated by somebody that you don't love? He's 19, and what parent decides that, yeah, just because you can play the keyboard and the church is growing, we understand you don't have a job. Listen, we'll pay you to play. Okay, you don't have a place to live? I tell you what, you can come live with us. Where they do that at? This is her story. She said, son, I had to marry somebody that I didn't love. And matter of fact, I didn't like him. His teeth were green. And by the time she was 17, she had 2 little girls by this deadbeat dad, as they call it, because my granddad said, Bud, listen, I didn't tell you about your dad. I used to drop your dad off at work, and he'd go in the front door, and when I pull off, he'd walk right out the back door. He said, "Bud, your dad wouldn't work in a pie factory if it was floating down a lemonade river." That's lazy. That's slack right there, bro. This is my dad. I ain't mad at him. I love him. I still call him today. Every Father's Day, I pick up that phone and try to call him. Every Father's Day. Honor your mother and father so that your days will be long on the earth. Teenagers, you better listen to me. Honor your mother and father so that your days may be long on the earth. No matter whether you think they're doing good, bad, or indifferent. Honor your mother and father. If I can honor mine, you can honor yours. And so how does all of this mess happen? She says, I didn't love him. Got 2 babies by him. He done left the church already because he didn't want to work. And he done went on back to Grand Rapids. And I got these 2 kids and it's all my fault. And they blaming everything on me. And then I find out I'm pregnant again by this rascal. Teeth still green and everything. And she said, my sister saw my pain, and my older sister, who had she spent some time working in the medical industry, and she knew that there was a way that you could do an at-home abortion, because in 1972 abortion was illegal in America. Yeah. And so she says, hey, listen, I've tried this procedure on myself twice. It worked the first time. Both times I tried it. And Deb, I even held a little grape-sized fetus in my hand. And she says, I want to help you. You can do okay with 2, but 3, nah. And so just giving you a little bit of her story, you simply understand why she was in the bathroom trying this at-home abortion procedure. You can at least understand it. I didn't say you approve of it, but I said you at least understand it. And so while she's in the bathroom and trying to end this problem that she had, God was in that bathroom. And when God says life, no man can say death. When God has his hands upon you, you are not lucky, you are protected, my friend. You are protected by his divine power. I was protected, y'all. And after several attempts, it didn't work. She decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and move on, and I'm going to keep this child. And I'm glad she did, because I am here today, standing here today, sharing with you that in the midst of tragedy, hope comes shining through. There's hope, guys. There's hope, and I don't care what kind of condition you have been experiencing, there is hope. And here's what it looks like in John chapter 5, where Jesus heals the man at the pool of Bethesda. Verse 1, after this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jews went up to Jerusalem. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. And these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. Somebody say tradition. Waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, he was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. And when Jesus saw him lie, and he knew that he had been there a long time in that condition, he said unto him, would you like to be made whole? When Jesus saw him in that condition, and he knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him simply, would you like to be made whole? Men, listen, there is a generation of young men today who are in a condition where they have lost hope. They have lost hope. The world has told them to, image is nothing, thirst is everything. Obey your thirst. Forget morality, just do it. This generation has lifted up sex and sensuality onto a platform, and men all across this world are worshiping it. And see, here's what they don't get told. What they don't get told is about the tragedy that comes after you abuse sex. They don't get told that part. The only thing they do is with every drop of the bass and every snap of the snare, they get told this song that says, get them as many as you can. Go get her. Little shorty, big up here, small down there, get her, whatever you can. Hey, as many as you can. Amen. And they end up in these situations where they've lost hope. And at this point at the cross, standing on this wall with Jesus standing behind me, I simply surrendered my life to him. And he said, I called you into ministry for a time such as this, and now, 20 years later, I see what the timing is about. I see what the ministry is about. The ministry is about bringing hope to young men all across the nation, and it's starting right here in Columbia, South Carolina. Bringing hope to young men in the form of the bullpen. Somebody say the bullpen. So here's what happens. There's a group of guys who we have gathered together who have decided that, like Jesus, when he saw this man sitting here in this condition, and he's been there a long time, he had compassion on him. And he asked him, would you like to be made whole? And there's a group of guys who are in the crisis pregnancy centers. There are crisis pregnancy centers all throughout the nation. And there's one downtown Columbia called Daybreak. And as men, we volunteer like I was volunteering. I was volunteering about 4 hours a month. And I'm there to just simply say, hey, listen, there's a problem, ladies, because I appreciate what you're doing to minister to these ladies when they come in and they got a crisis pregnancy situation. They are like my mom. They terrified. They don't know what to do. They give them free ultrasounds and minister and share. And these ladies are great. They do a great job ministering to the girls. But, there is another half of the equation. Like somebody else had something to do with that pregnancy. You know what I'm saying, guys? Somebody had something to do with it. It was us. But we get to sit in the lobby. Or we get to sit in the car like I did. Or we get to sit at home and don't even come. These things ought not to be so. And so we've gathered together the bullpen. We got 22 guys strong right now. We need to get up to 40. But we got 22 guys right now who just donate some of their time to be there when a young man comes in and says, hey, listen, my name is Henry. I'm a volunteer here at Daybreak. Tell me what you're going through. How can I help you through this situation? And not only are we able to help him through that situation, listen, there's an opportunity to partner with this guy and to coach him for the rest of his life and to help this young man to become a great man. Right there at the bullpen. Because these guys are coming in, and how many know, man, please, let me tell you something. People receive Christ during what? Crisis. You better believe it. People receive Christ during crisis. And I'm telling you, when Bernard is 19 and Cindy is pregnant and she's 16 and her dad is the chief of police, homeboy is in crisis. And we all know if you got teenagers something else. They know everything until crisis. That's how we were, and we were there too. That's why you need to have compassion on teenagers, and that's why I volunteer like I do, because I have compassion on teenagers because I was there. And I often ask my mom, I say, Mom, I wonder what you would do had there been a Daybreak to support you. Maybe we wouldn't have bounced around from house to house all over the place in Detroit. Maybe we would have kept the electricity on at some point during the wintertime. Could we just have some electricity for 1 month? And maybe there'd be a point where we had some food on the table consistently. If there had been a Daybreak pregnancy center to support my mom. And so what's happening is there are guys who are coming along and saying, listen, these young men need to be ministered to. And that's what the bullpen does. And we hear, man, we can teach these guys how to, listen, some of them have criminal background records. And okay, you may not be able to get that expunged from your record. If we can, we're going to help you do that. But listen, man, I know a guy who teaches people how to lay bricks. He's a part of the bullpen. And when these young men come in, he's teaching these guys a trade. Yeah. And I've been able to grab a hold of some of these guys, and man, listen, they're struggling, guys. They're without hope. They just laying there without hope. They see everybody else they see the troubling of the waters. They see the economy going, and some people got it going on. You're driving by with your BMW, and you got your house on the hill, and they get to drive by and see these things on TV, but it's not happening in their lives. And it's not because they want to be broke, busted, and disgusted. It's because they don't have hope. And we can bring hope, man, to these young men. We can do it. And we're doing it through the bullpen. And I have dedicated my life to this ministry and to this mission of building the bullpen, not just here in Columbia, but all throughout the nation. I share my story. Sometimes I get sick of sharing my story. And sometimes I have a conniption fit every time somebody says story. I don't want to tell my story no more. But if sharing my story will cause men to gather together and stand up and be like Jesus when he looked at the impotent man and say, hey, would you like to be made whole? If sharing my story will cause for men to gather together and to build a bullpen in these pregnancy centers where we can help the young men get out of a hopeless situation, and then I will share my story. But gentlemen, I need your help. I need your help. And so he's looking at him, would you like to be made whole? And the man said, hey, listen, I've been here for a little while, and the King James Version says, I have no man. I have no man to help me when the water is troubled, to lift me up and to get me to the pool. I have no man. And every time I try to go there by myself and crawl, somebody's always beating me to the pool. And thus I miss out on my blessing. Guys, these young men are crippled and maimed. They have, sure, they are responsible for their decisions. But you and I both know that we haven't always made good decisions. Come on, somebody. Somebody with compassion, thank you. I got one clap. Don't let them clap by and saying thank you. Somebody knows what it's like to make bad decisions. I had a job interview one time in Summerville, South Carolina. They said, oh, you from Detroit? I said, yeah, I'm from Detroit. They said, oh, you must be a tough guy. I said, oh, you know what? No, I was the one running from the tough guys. That was me. But, I wasn't the one doing the bad stuff. But listen, that don't mean I'm innocent. I've never had a pair of handcuffs on these hands, but that don't mean I'm guiltless. I've done my dirt, and as I shared with you some of it. And these young men, they've done their dirt, but guys, they need hope. And Jesus had compassion on this man. He says, listen, pick up your bed and walk. Pick up your bed. Get up from where you are and walk. If Christ is on the inside of us, guys, then we need to learn how to be Christ to the world. And we need to learn how to have compassion on these young men and just begin to speak life into their situation. Just begin to speak life. Listen, get up from where you are and walk. I will help you. I know you've been there for a long time and you feel like there's no hope, but listen, I can help you. You need to get your driver's license. I tell you what, we can take my car. I'll help you go get your driver's license. I will take some time out of my day. You need some money to buy baby diapers? I'll give you some money. I ain't giving you cash. I'm gonna go buy the diapers for you. I ain't stupid, but I'm gonna help you. Hope, guys. They need hope, and I've dedicated my life to bringing hope to these guys, and I need your help. I want to show you what hope looks like. Well, you're welcome to the stage, my friend and my brother, Chris Tucker. Clap your hands, give him a warm welcome. Chris Tucker. I told you I'm big balling and shot calling. I hang out with the big wigs. Chris Tucker, my man. Tell him, just give me the 5-minute version. Tell him how we met.
Well, me and my girlfriend at the time, we was dating, and we ended up doing some things that we shouldn't have, and she got pregnant, and we was gonna abort our child. We was looking through the phone book, and I didn't have a real good paying job, so I was like, man, I ain't gonna be able to take care of this baby. So we just gonna have to do what's best for us, you know what I'm saying? Just do it, anybody don't know. So she started looking for abortion clinics, and we found one, and we went, and Henry just happened to be in there.
Yeah, and Chris showed up, and this guy was hopeless, y'all. Here's what's real. And when I tell you these guys get caught up in a trap, listen, this guy is a Christian recording artist. He does gospel rap, as you've experienced already. It wasn't his plan to be in that situation. It wasn't even his plan to have an abortion. But here's the scenario. When you get to a point where you got a little up close and personal, more than you should have on a date, and your girlfriend, your fiance is the pastor's daughter. Yeah, you hear me. And I understand, hey, listen, Jason, I understand that these are some issues that is really tough to talk about from the pulpit. But these are some issues that on a grassroots level, mighty men of God who have the courage to stand up can come together and bring hope in these situations. The church started on a grassroots level, guys. One guy went out and doing what Jesus called him to do. And so Chris is in this situation and they're trying to avoid shame from the church. Because you know how we do. You know how we do at the church. You know how we do at the church. Sometimes some of the greatest among us who fall into sin, man, yeah, we understand forgiveness and everything, but brother, you got to go. Yeah, Jesus forgives, but we will never forget what we forgave. And we wonder why people don't run to the church. And we forget that the church is not supposed to be a museum for saints. It's supposed to be a hospital for sinners. Not excusing sin. Listen, we need to repent from our sins. And we need to embrace His holiness and pursue it every day. But the kind of condemnation that we deliver to people, sometimes unknowingly because they've made a mistake, is the same kind of condemnation that pushed these people to daybreak. They thought it was an abortion clinic. But thanks be to God that there was a bullpen of men that showed up in his life. And man, listen, Chris and I have been, not only have I been working with this guy, and we certainly helped him through that situation. And first of all, let me say, I have the utmost respect for this man right here. This man chose life when he easily could have chosen his own convenience. Where's your little man? Hold on. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And so you're a step ahead of me, because at that point I chose my own personal convenience over life. And so here he is, and I showed him my website. I said, man, listen, think about the possibilities of life, man. Think about the possibilities. You never know what that child could be. Never know what that child could do. And I took him to my website. I said, man, I'm an abortion survivor. But listen, not impressed by me. Look at this testimonials page. Henry, you did a great job at the concert at our funeral. We thank you so much. Henry, your speech changed my life. Young men at Department of Juvenile Justice, where I first started my speaking career, they say, Henry, your 5-step program changed my life. I've been released for 4 months. I got a hold of the program that you introduced. He repeated to me the 5 steps. After 6 months of not seeing me, he repeated the 5 points that I delivered that day. And he said, Henry, I want you to know I'm out. I'm living with my brother. I got a job. I'm doing this and doing that. I want you to know my life has changed. And Henry, you made a difference in my life. That's what happens when you choose life, guys. And this guy chose life. And I sat there and I showed him my website, and I showed him, and then I wasn't really sure, because sometimes we guys, we hold our emotions, we don't wear them on our sleeve, we hold them real tight. So I wasn't really sure if I was getting through to him. And I showed him my DVD, and I played the Hollywood version of my story. And I was like, oh yeah, I left the room and I was kind of listening. To see if he was really getting it, you know what I'm saying? I was kind of peeking and stuff. And then the DVD was over and I came back in. I said, all right, tell me what you're thinking. He's like, wow. He said, that's powerful. I said, yeah. I said, let me show you something even more powerful. So what we did was we took him back to the other room, and we let him see the ultrasound. Yeah. See, a cool thing happens, guys. A cool thing happens when you see life. It's a difference. He said, what did you say about the ultrasound? After we left the man cave and we went and you saw the ultrasound, what did you say?
Oh man, when we seen the ultrasound, I just broke down and started crying, because we was listening to the heartbeat and everything, and I was like, you know what I'm saying, God gave me this gift and I'm just trying to destroy it. And I was like, this child could be anybody. You know what I'm saying? And God gave it to me, so there's a reason that He did it, and we we decided to keep the child.
Yeah. It's amazing, guys, when you get to see life. This is a program called Sprout. And every one of us guys needs to have this application on your phone. And there's some guys in here who are part of the bullpen. I'm going to show you those guys. And listen, we can show these guys, listen, this is what it looks like. It's not a blob of cells. It's not a choice. It's a child. It's not a choice. It's a child. You told me to obey the Lord, right? Listen, guys, listen to me. I'm going to look you straight in your eye when I say this. Many of you are afraid of this issue, and you don't want to talk about it or get involved. And it's funny how we'll let women do what they want to do when it's convenient for us. We'll sit back and be passive like Adam was. The Bible says that Eve gave the fruit to Adam who was with her. We'll sit there and what in the world are you doing letting your wife talk to a snake? And we sit back and we be passive, and especially with this issue. Well, it's a woman's choice, and, that's her body and all this. Excuse me, last time I checked, the woman only had one heartbeat. All right. Last time I checked, she only had one brain. Now, that brain is twice as much as ours, and she just does some things that men can't do, but it's only one. It's only one brain. Yeah. I understand you don't want to get involved because you're afraid of the backlash. But here's something. Let me look you straight in your eye and say this. Every one of you guys, if you do not give her your seed, then there is no choice. If you don't give her your seed, then there is no choice. The seed, God spoke the word, and the world became so. Seed, it's the same word as the seed that we use to produce life. See, we got to understand where the power is. Don't give her your seed, and you won't give her a choice. Another subject, another day. So with this guy, I've been mentoring him and helping him, and we go all over the country. We've been to Evansville, Indiana, speaking at the fundraiser banquet for their pregnancy center there. And when it comes to traveling and speaking and sharing our story, I always tell them, because they call me and say, hey, Henry, we have our banquet this year. We'd love to have you come in and speak. And I say, no, I can't speak. And I beg your pardon? No, I can't come and speak at your banquet. I can't come and speak at your banquet unless you are willing to covenant together with me and with my team and with my organization to build the men's side of the ministry. That's the deal. Time out for treating symptoms. Listen, women, you do a great job ministering to the young ladies, but they are only half of the equation. If we continue to only treat symptoms, we will never solve the problem. And the problem lies in the hearts of men. And Jesus can rise up in us and say, hey, would you like to be made whole? And they say yes, and they get up and they take up their bed and walk. And listen, let me show you what it looks like when you take up your bed and walk. Bring up your little man. Y'all clap your hands for Caden. Come on up here, Caden. Look at him. Come on, buddy. Come on, man. I knew you were going to fall. That's why I held your hand. Look at him. Come on, somebody. Yeah. That's what it looks like, guys. When you let Christ show up in your life and you get involved in this situation and you say, hey, young man, I understand you're in a desperate situation, but there is hope. In the midst of tragedy, there's hope. Hope can come shining through, and the light is in each and every one of you men here today. I can't do this alone. I need your help. So that guys like Chris Tucker can continue to choose life. You just had your second child, right?
Yeah, we did.
And you got your microphone. Use your microphone. Tell me what's his name and how you feeling?
His name is Bryson Lee, and I'm feeling great. Father of two. I've been married 3 years, and I love every moment of it.
Yeah. Y'all clap your hands for Chris. Clap your hands for Caden. God bless you guys. Come on, give the Lord praise. Thank you. Thank you. If you want to see hope, that's what it looks like, guys. That's what it looks like. So here's what I'm calling you to do. I am calling you to come alongside me and take part in what God is doing and partner with this great organization, Bullpen Investors Group. And here's what we get to do. We get to go about the mission of building the bullpen, not just in Daybreak in Columbia, because I told you we're at 22 men right now. We need to get to 40. But there are 3 other cities right now calling for my help. I'm going on October the 22nd to speak at the fundraiser banquet in Whiteville, North Carolina. They need the men's side of the ministry. So it's Whiteville, North Carolina. It's Florence, South Carolina. It's Aiken, South Carolina, where actually Aiken, the bullpen, is already up and running. I spoke at their banquet last year in October. Listen, spoke at their banquet. The next meeting, I met with their board of elders. The meeting after that was a training session that I did with the initial guys who thought about, hey, let me consider this bullpen thing. And guys, now there are 4 guys who are volunteering their time at the pregnancy center in Aiken. 4. 3 visits, and now you got 4 guys. Would you like to be made whole? It's possible, guys. And just like the flood has been ravaging the state of South Carolina for so many days now, we can come in with the power of the Holy Ghost and like a flood make a change in the lives of these young men to a point where we will leave watermarks in their lives and they will never forget you for giving 4 hours of your time or a 30-minute lunch meeting where you meet with them and take them out to lunch and tell them, say, hey, listen, tell me what you're going through. How can I help you? Where's your plan for the next 3 months, 4 months, 6 months of your life? What do you need? How can I help you? See, guys, this is what's possible when men come alongside the pregnancy center. And we can do it. I envision us all being able to, as male mentors, being able to get this book. So listen, this is a book that I wrote called Bored to Death. Bored to Death. That is the problem. Teen pregnancy is not the problem, that's a symptom. Teen drug and alcohol abuse, that's a symptom. Delinquent violence and juvenile behavior, that's a symptom. Many of these young people, they don't get in this kind of trouble because they're looking for trouble. They get into these problems because they are looking for something to do. I got a study. Here's a study. Do a study. Find out how many times teenage girls, 18 or under, unwed teenage girls, 18 or under, give birth in the month of March, April, or May. Find out. Do the research. I have done it. I want you to see it. Why is that significant? Because if you gave birth during the months of March, April, and May, then that means you conceived in June, July, or August. Summertime. When mom and dad is at work trying to keep the brick house and the 2 cars and the 1.5 children and the house on the hill and the white picket fence, and these teenagers are stuck with the most idle time that they have ever experienced in their lives. And they get involved in situations that they didn't really want to get involved in. They were just sitting around looking for something to do. And so with this book, I want every male mentor that's a part of the bullpen to be able to have this book. And when you meet a guy and he really comes alongside you and say, okay, I'm trying to make something, help me. You give him a copy of this book and we work through it together. Okay, the first step in the plan is H. Have a plan. Can I get an H? Say, have a plan. So what we get to do is we get to talk to these young men and say, okay, what's your plan for the next 3 months? What does it look like? What are you doing now? What is it that you need to stop doing and do differently? Because listen, when there is a vision, the people reach success. But when there is no vision, the people perish. The Bible says good planning leads to success. Come on up here, Stephen. I want to show you what it looks like. Bring your paper. I got your paper right here. This is my son, Stephen. Y'all clap your hands for him. So Stephen got in a little bit of trouble not long ago, and really, honestly, it was because he was sitting around doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, and got in a little trouble. And so he had already read the book, but now what we're doing is we're going back through the book and treat it as the workbook as it is. It's really a workbook. And so, see, this kid, listen, he needs something to be able to focus on other than video games and television. And as parents, we need to give it to them. And so when we grab a hold of this book, and I said, Stephen, hey, listen, so what's at the top of your page there?
Go to college.
This is what he says he wants to do. He wants to go to college. And that's great, because nowadays you really need college. But guess what? Okay, but we got three circles below college about the possibilities of how to get to college. The first circle is your dad pays for your college. Second circle is military pays for your college. And the third circle is college scholarship with sports and academics and that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's deal with the easy part first. Let's go to the circle that says dad. Now hold that piece of paper up so they can see it, Stephen. Now notice there's a really big X right there. I can't pay for your college. I can't pay for your college. Brother, I'm in ministry. Most ministers are broke. Let me just let you understand. Y'all don't believe me? Most pastors retire flat broke. That's a shame. Another subject for another time. I ain't going there. But so it's not really an option for me because I just ain't big balling and shot calling like that. I'm just being real with you. You want me to tell you the truth or you want me to tell you a lie? You may not like what I tell you, but I'll always tell you the truth. So let's look at the second option. So you can join the military and do 4 years and get what they call the GI Bill and pay for your college. That'd be a good option. You like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's a good option for them. Now the third option is sports. Guys, young men especially, how many teenage boys in here? Raise your hand. Teenage boys, raise your hands. Listen, I need to show you something. I appreciate your love for sports and everything and stuff, but listen, you ain't balling like that. I'm just telling you, I've been to the University of South Carolina. I spoke to the football team, and when these men walked in there, and I was sitting down, these men walked in there, and one of them stood next to me. His name was Jared Cook. Let me tell you something. When a man's thigh is bigger around in my chest, that's not normal. These guys are freaks of nature. Listen. These guys are like descendants of Gad and like Goliath. This is ridiculous. Their kicker was bigger than me. And I told you twisted steel and sex appeal, so I ain't no joke, but these guys are hawkish, freakish people. So listen, you need to set your goals on something that's realistic. And I'm going to tell you something. I played football. I was really good. And I'll never forget my coach said, the last thing my coach ever said to me was, man, expletive removed. He said, man, the worst decision you ever made was waiting until your senior year to play football. That was really good. But listen, when I stood in that room at the University of South Carolina and Jared Cook's thigh stood next to me, that was the last day I thought I ever could play a big-time ball. So he gets the opportunity to focus on some things. He's got 3 things in front of him. And listen, this being pasted on his wall will help him keep focus. When he gets to the point where people are tempting him to do the wrong thing, sometimes your dreams and your goals can remind you and cause you to make a better decision. If that's right, say yes. Yeah, it's about focus. And so what I want to do is I want to begin to work with my son and begin to work with the guys in the bullpen and begin to work with teenagers when I go and speak in middle school and high schools and begin to work them through this book so they can say, hey, listen, let me give you some focus so you won't get so distracted and get involved in things that might hurt you in the future. It's about bringing them hope. And sometimes hope comes when you have a plan. Y'all clap your hands for Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. We're going to work through that together. Yeah, hope. Guys, we got to get involved. And there's a funny thing about men. We're funny creatures sometimes. Sometimes we'll sit back and watch. Like they were watching this guy. He'd been there for 38 years at the side of the pool. And sometimes we just sit back and watch. And we need to stop that. We need to stop being passive, guys. I'm sitting there, and Stephen got into a little situation. And, there must not have been a whole lot for the Lexington County Sheriff's Department to do that day. Because all of them was in my front lawn. It was like 4 cars, patrol cars out there. It was a huge unmarked truck with an plainclothes police officer with a big old gun. I think it was a bazooka, a big old gun on his hip. And it was all walking around my front yard when I pulled up. Now imagine this scenario, all these police cars and Sergeant Slaughter standing there with a bazooka on his hip, and little Steven standing there, and then when me and him talking and we trying to find out what's going on, and it wasn't really a big deal. I'm telling y'all, it wasn't no big deal. But the funny thing is when you live in a subdivision and you got neighbors, neighbors are a funny thing. Because it's like, it was sunny, and it was a beautiful day, but when all of these officers showed up in my front yard, everybody wanted to cut their grass. All at the same time. My neighbor, George, you cut your grass yesterday. Why you cutting your grass? Frank, your lawnmower ain't even on, Frank. What are you doing? Everybody watching. We want to see what's going on. And he cutting his grass, and he cutting his grass. And they don't even got no grass, but he walking back and down forth like he cutting grass. No, listen, time out for guys being spectators, and we need to begin to be participators. When you see something going on, we need to get involved. Somebody say get involved. Somebody say get involved. So as I come to a close, guys, here's how we get involved. Here's how we do it. Bullpen Investors Group. We are going to get to 40 men strong in this bullpen. We are going to do it. And we're going to change the lives of these young men on a miraculous scale. We're going to help them go from being lame and sick and blind. We're going to open up their eyes. We're going to heal them, and we're going to give them direction. I need volunteers, guys. Check this out. What if, concerning the bullpen, you could tithe your age in hours? So you're 50 years old. Would you be willing to give 50 hours per year as a volunteer at Daybreak? To be there. If you do it as little as 4 hours a month. I have 5 children. My time is at a premium, but 4 hours a month. God ordered the steps for me to be there for Chris Tucker and his fiance. And I was able to help him not just that day, but for the long haul. Man, we get on stage and we go and speak, and we're building a bullpen together, and we minister to teens, and we do music like you saw today. And man, I did their marriage counseling, and I go over there every now and then and let them know that, yeah, Chris, you can't say that to your wife. That's stupid. And it's just an ongoing thing. These are some great things that are happening, and you can be a part of it. And that what I hope you will do is that after this service, that you will go to the back where my table is, and you will sign your name, and you're considering being part of the bullpen. That's the first column over here. And say, hey, I want to get some more information about being a part of the bullpen, because I want to help bring hope to the lives of these young men. Secondly, talked about the bullpen. Let's talk about the investors. And this is where people really, and I have been called to the point of my greatest insecurity when it comes to finances. I do not want to be meeting with people to tell them about my mission and about the fact that this mission needs to be financed. And it's funny how God will call you right to where you are most insecure. Moses said, Lord, I can't speak there. Oh, yeah, okay, that's great. Go over there and talk to Pharaoh. He don't care. God doesn't care. Why? Because God never calls the qualified, but he always qualifies the called. Yeah. And so in this area, investors, listen, there are some of you who are gifted financially. I need you to get involved. I need you to get involved as an investor and say, hey, I want to partner with this group, with this organization, to be able to take it, not just, okay, I want to help build the bullpen in Columbia, but I told you there are 4 more cities calling for my help and our help. And listen, the word has barely gotten out about the powerful opportunity that there is when men come alongside young men. And so as the word continues to get out, I continually need resources. Some of you have been gifted, and I want you to partner with this group and invest your resources so that we can do what we can to help the sick and the lame and the blind concerning our young men. And so that you'll go back afterwards and you'll check the box that says, investor, Henry, I want you to call me. And I want you to talk to me about what it looks like to invest in the Bullpen Investors Group. I want you to talk to me, and that's where you'll get involved as well. And finally, group. I need a group of people who are prayer warriors. God's thing, done God's way, will never lack God's supply. But I'm convinced that God does not do miracles in many of our lives because we don't ask for them. Jesus had to ask, would you like to be made whole? I need some people who will bombard the heavenlies and ask for things concerning Henry Flowers and the Bullpen Investors Group. I need you to do spiritual warfare like you have never known. And I need you to call out my name and call out the name of Chris Tucker and everybody who is involved in the bullpen. And I need you to do what you can to wage war in the heavenlies so we can break down these barriers and these chains that hold down our young men. You can do it. Some of you spend hours praying. Oh, Gary, I so look forward to this prayer when I come here. These people pray. Whoa. Some of you guys need to come up in that upper room at 7 o'clock. God almighty. There is a sweet, sweet presence in there, and I look forward every time I come to people who pray. Guys, nothing great will be accomplished aside from prayer. If you have not seen the movie War Room, you need to go. And you need to take your family and go. It will change your life. And so I need people to get into the war room. I need guys to be a part of the bullpen. I need you to invest your resources and your finances. And I need a group of people who will bombard the heavens and do war in the heavenlies for this great ministry. I would like for some of you to, when you leave today, you'll come back to the table and you'll get my ministry package, which has got a copy of my latest CD. We'll have some music there that will bless you, Hollywood version of my video, and a copy of my book. This is $40. You will help me continue to do what I've been doing in ministry, and I need your help. And also, every one of us needs to pray about what we want to do. I don't want you to do anything out of an emotional response, but I want you to pray. And there are voices talking to you right now about what you can't do. I don't need you to listen to that voice. I need you to listen to the voice of Jesus. Just like at the Wailing Wall that day, I was listening to his voice. And he was saying to me, I have called you in the ministry for such a time as this. And gentlemen, I am calling you as well. I'm boldly standing on this stage and asking for your help. Men, I hope you will listen today. And I hope you will respond to God's call. And I hope today will be the beginning of the day that you partner with Bullpen Investment Group and you do your part in helping young men to become great men. Thank you all. God bless you.